Well, the MMA is one of the fastest growing sports on the planet. One of the great things about the MMA events is there's often so many of them that are held in Abu Dhabi. There's always mixed martial arts.
That's right.
And UFC.
Yeah, I mean, there is. Plus, there's something very interesting that comes along with it is the immense fan support that they get. You know, youngsters especially, they've fallen in love with the sport, and they go in numbers to actually go and watch their favorite fighters fight in the ring.
Well, joining us on the phone is Mohammed Hosani, who is a board member of the UMA MMA community. It's because Abu Dhabi is set to host the second Mixed Martial Arts Youth Championships at the Zayed Sports City Jiu-Jitsu Arena. Mohammed, thank you very much for joining us on Talk 100.3.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here. Yeah, Abu Dhabi has been a favourite destination for a long time for many combat sports. In line of this youth championship coming up, why is Abu Dhabi liked by so many of the combat sports?
There is a rich history of combat sports in Abu Dhabi specifically. Maybe part of it is not very known to the masses, as in the 90s, His Highness Sheikh Tahnoon bin Zayed Al Nahyan brought in Jiu-Jitsu to the UAE, specifically in 1995. And then in 1998, he established an event which is basically similar to the UFC, but taking out striking. So it's mostly grappling arts. So he mixed in Jiu-Jitsu with Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, Judo, wrestling, Sambo, etc. So that's the rich history of combat sports in the UAE when it comes to grappling, and then that spawned Jiu-Jitsu, and Jiu-Jitsu became, the superior sport in these type of events that he created, and that's why Jiu-Jitsu was very big. Obviously, on the organizational side, Abu Dhabi has always excelled at hosting global events, mainly the UFC in 2010, when Flash Entertainment owned 10% of the UFC at the time. It was the first time they come to the Middle East. In the beginning, maybe the MMA push wasn't so big, but certainly the second go around with the Department of Culture and Tourism signing a 5-year deal with the UFC, that's when we started seeing the ecosystem, the mixed martial arts ecosystem in the UAE start to flourish. MMA is now found a home officially under the Jiu-Jitsu Federation, so it's now the UAE Jiu-Jitsu and Mixed Martial Arts Federation. So after all that organization, after all that, brainstorming, MMA now has a solid base in a very strong federation with a very strong track record in pushing a sport into national stardom. Jiu-Jitsu is now a national sport in the UAE, and hopefully, with time, MMA is going to be at the same level as Jiu-Jitsu's. This event is going to change a lot of things tomorrow. A lot of officials are coming, a lot of UFC personalities, UAE warriors, a lot of celebrities coming in who are part of the Abu Dhabi Showdown week. So we look forward to, a new phase when it comes to amateur mixed martial arts in the UAE to join the professional ranks.
That's right. In fact, the kind of expectation that one has whenever, and any of the UFC fights happen here in the UAE is just at the level of international fights that we see globally, right? So what is it that in particular that we, see that UAE has given as far as UFC is considered to be like probably a literal backyard for the fighters to come in and fight here?
I think the UFC leadership really appreciate the rich history when it comes to Abu Dhabi, because as I talked about His Highness Sheikh Tahnoon when he first brought in grappling was kind of the aspect of the sport that wasn't very popular within MMA. Everyone loves the striking, everyone loves the knockouts, but nobody understands the ground game. To this day, it's still something that people are not very maybe interested in, but I think with Abu Dhabi's influence, a lot of people understand the grappling part of MMA now because of what Abu Dhabi has presented to the sport. So I think the UFC leadership appreciate Abu Dhabi's role in developing the sport in general. And this is something that not a lot of people talk about, but certainly if you talk to Dana White and the previous owners of the UFC, they'll tell you that if it wasn't for Abu Dhabi, a lot of people would not understand the grappling aspect of the sport.
Well, that's certainly a badge of honour for the UFC. I mean, you mentioned Dana White as the president of the UFC. He's often referred to Abu Dhabi as the international home of UFC. But when it comes to this mixed martial arts youth championship that starts tomorrow, what can we expect from the event?
This is a massive event. The reason why it's happening now is because Abu Dhabi hosted the IMAF Youth MMA World Championships in August. We've never entered a team into MMA before, a national team. Within 3 weeks, we prepared the team and we got a gold medal via Jassim Hosani. That gold medal changed the landscape of the sport here.
Right.
So after that gold medal, the leadership said we need to invest in this because with 3 weeks training and the base of having a jiu-jitsu background for most of these kids, why not push them into MMA? Especially with youth under 18, there are no headshots involved. So
Right.
it's very safe. It's very safe. You protect these athletes to a certain extent before they turn pro or adults. So it's very safe. It's very spectator friendly. Families will be able to push their kids to compete in these type of events because of removing the headshot aspect. So this is something we look forward to. Tomorrow we expect a buzz. I believe on Saturday people will realize that MMA is going to be one of the biggest sports in the UAE going forward, both on the professional level and at the amateur level with the youth.
It's going to be huge. It's great for the city and also for the sport. 20 fights are going to be at the second MMA Youth Championship. Male and female fighters will be there, but can you just run through how do you categorise youth? What are the age groups of most of the fighters?
So we're going to start off with Youth C fights, which are 12 and 13-year-olds. And then we're going to move to Youth B, 14 and 15. And then Youth A is 16 and 17. But we also have around 5 fights at the senior level. They're showcase fights away from the youth event. But we also want to give a chance because it's a high-level exposure with this event happening at the Abu Dhabi Showdown week. With the UFC coming in, we want to give these amateurs a lot of, exposure, and that's why we're having 10 adults, 10 senior over 21 athletes also competing at this event aside from the youth.
Now, whenever you want to develop any sport in any part of the world, developing it at the grassroots level is extremely important. Having the right set of academies, right set of coaches around, ensuring there is enough funding for, youth level sport happening in the region. Is there in some way a direction that's been set up to have similar facilities or coaching centers or academies with international athletes coming in to coach these kids who are interested in taking it up as a profession?
That's all coming. The federation has a few centers that's under its belt,
Okay.
and there will be MMA courses given, and it will be publicized soon. But there are also we have partners,
Okay.
the private academies and gyms, the big name gyms like Team Nogueira that carry the names of legendary figures in the sport. Habib Gym is opening soon. There's a lot of gyms that will eventually be partners in getting us, the grassroots level training for these kids, and the ecosystem is just going to get bigger and bigger. We have even in the Showdown week, we have a judges course. We need to train the local judges, local referees, in order to have our own technical staff on hand to run these kind of events. So we're building all aspects of the sport, not only the athletes.
When it comes to the future of UFC, how long, if you could look into the crystal ball, how long before we can see a UAE fighter in the UFC? Can it happen?
Yes, it's bound to happen, and I believe it will happen sooner than we all think, because now the UFC has invested in international talent more so than ever before in their history. There is a show that's happening on Sunday right after UFC 280 called Road to UFC. And it was dedicated for Asian talent. It started in Singapore, and it's continuing here in Abu Dhabi. So after that series is over, I'm sure they're going to create another Road to UFC with Middle Eastern talent involved. It's just a matter of time.
Well, Abu Dhabi is set to host the second Mixed Martial Arts Youth Championship. It happens at the Zayed Sports City's Jiu-Jitsu Arena. It all starts 4 p.m. tomorrow, and board member of the UAE MMA Committee, Mohammed Hosani, thank you very much for joining us and inspiring us in getting us excited here on Talk 100.3.
Thank you, guys.